Today's the 13th day of Advent, and our story is Ruth. After the Israelites have settled in the Promised Land, there's a famine in Judah, and so Naomi and her husband Elimelech move to the land of Moab, where their two sons marry Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. And then all three of the men die, and so the three widows are left quite vulnerable, and Naomi decides she's going to move back to Judah, back to Bethlehem, where she's from. And she tells her two daughters-in-law that they are to go back to be with their families. But Ruth says, no. Ruth says, I'm going to accompany you back to your land. And even though she's under no obligation to Naomi, she stays loyal to her. And she says, where you go, I go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. And this is the first of three acts of incredible loving kindness that Ruth is remembered for. And so she accompanies Naomi back to Bethlehem, where they're quite poor because even though Elimelech has land inheritance, Naomi has no claim to it as a woman, and they need a male redeemer from his family to help them acquire the land. And so before we get to that part, they need to eat right now. And so Ruth goes and gleans in the fields of Boaz. And so she goes in behind the harvesters looking for grain that is left over. It would be a vulnerable and dangerous sort of job, and also one of great shame. And she's essentially begging for food, and yet she willingly does it because such is her love for her mother-in-law, Naomi. And then Boaz and her meet, and Boaz being a close relative of Naomi's former husband, Boaz agrees that he'll marry Ruth in order to redeem this land for Naomi and thus restore her social standing and her ability to live and thrive. And Ruth willingly agrees to do this because, again, such is her love for her mother-in-law. Under no obligation to do anything, she willingly marries her relative Boaz so that they could be cared for. And so Ruth is remembered as an example of loyalty and of loving kindness. And as a result, she too, even though she is a Moabite, is ingrained into this story of this family. So much so that, like Rahab yesterday, she becomes one of the four women named in Matthew's genealogy of Jesus because Boaz is Rahab's son. And so we move from Rahab to Boaz and Ruth. And then that will continue on down to Jesse and David and eventually to Jesus. And so Ruth is our example today of what extreme loyalty and loving kindness looks like, which I think we all can agree is a wonderful example to lift up and name. Remember that you are loved, and God's peace be with you.